All right, welcome back. Just breezing through this first hour. I literally was decompressing all night from all the action going on here in Staten Island. That's at the community level, but business is still also in a state of mayhem right now. And someone who's really great at teaching people how to navigate these times, and we're going to talk to him right now about how to navigate the changing in business right now in a pandemic. Edwin Bosso joins us right now. He's the CEO of Myrtle Consulting Group, and he's an author. I'm also with Frank Morano. Edwin is the author of 6,000 Dreams, The Leader's Guide to a Successful Business Transformation Journey. Edwin, I got to ask you, I have heard a lot of horror stories, but I've also heard a lot of people that said, oh, you know, I contacted this guy because I had nothing else to do, and I'm hearing positive little stories of people who have actually won during the pandemic.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. Yes, indeed. I think the saying, as the saying goes, never let a good crisis go to waste. So some people are really taking advantage of the pandemic and making strides. That's correct.
I didn't know if Frank had a question for Edwin.
So I know
we're on delay, so I'm sorry. We're having some technical issues. I was giving Frank a few seconds for the delay, but Frank, what do you got?
Yeah, I didn't know if that pregnant pause was you giving me a chance to ask a question, or if it was about the technical problems that we've been having. And again,
you're so unaccustomed to me letting you ask a question.
Exactly. Edwin, I know you've been a real expert in terms of helping businesses navigate changes. It seems like every business now, small business, large businesses, we're talking the corner store, the tanning salon, or the big casino operators, they're all forced to reinvent themselves now. What advice would you give to business people, or even just rank and file ordinary everyday workers, about changing out of necessity, not necessarily out of choice right now? What's the best way for them to manage that change?
I think the first thing that I would say to them is to make sure that they are very clear on what they are reacting to. And what I mean with that is that a crisis does a lot of bad things, but your focus as a business, whether it's a small business or a large business, is to adjust for the crisis but not react to it. Because the very nature of a crisis is that it's going to pass. So if all of your transformation effort is just targeted at the crisis, eventually you'll find yourself in no man's land. So you really have to do a good job understanding what you're trying to react to, and not let small tactical adjustments that you have to make basically sacrifice what could be a very good long-term strategy. So you really have to pause, kind of let things settle down as much as possible, and then try to learn from what happened during the crisis, but also learn through some issues that you may have had even before the crisis and that the crisis has highlighted. So pause, look at the future, adjust to survive, but take the time to really think about what is it that you're transforming to solve.
And then Edwin, a lot of people, get caught up in the negativity, and instead of thinking about ways to get to a positive outcome, they just get tangled up in all the negativity. What are some of the main obstacles that prevent people from being strategic enough to transform?
Well, I think the main one is what we all have as human beings or as corporation is the survival instinct, right? A lot of bad things are happening, and all it takes is just turning on the news, and everything you hear is the world is falling off a cliff. So it's very difficult in that context to keep a sound mind and to look ahead. The other thing that confuses that a little bit is the political discourse, right? There's a lot of different voices from left, right, or even from scientists that paint a picture that's pretty gloom. So it's very difficult to be optimist. So I think all of those things contribute to the general context. At the end of the day, we're a human being. I think what the first thing that you have to do as a business leader is recognize that a lot of the reactions that you will see are even though there are obviously facts behind it, I don't want to minimize the crisis, but a lot of the reactions that you see are emotional reactions that people are having. So I think that you have to be able to see past that as a leader. You have to be able to absorb that, reassure your people, acknowledge it, lead them. But at the same time, you have to have the composure to look past that and develop the sound business strategies that you can then go out and implement as things settle down.
So, Edwin, I mean, that all sounds good, and I'm sure that it makes sense. But if business leaders or, again, just managers are watching you right now and saying, okay, where do I start? What's the first step in that process? What do people do next?
I think the first step is containment, right? You have to make sure that you can survive the crisis. So if you haven't applied for PPP, if you haven't done anything that is out there that can help you navigate what's happening, adjust your cost to navigate what's happening. The next phase after that is to make sure that you have cash conservation policies in place, to make sure that you bring back your employees that can bring back, and that you ensure that you have a climate where everybody feels safe. Once you get past that, you really have to settle down and think about, okay, what are some of the issues that we had before the crisis, that the crisis has helped surface or has highlighted, and what are some of the other things that we really suffered from during the crisis? Combine those two, and then engage into an exercise of understanding what problem you're trying to solve. Once you have that, you really have a scope of something that could be transformational and very, very positive for your business. So I do think that a lot of businesses are going to come stronger at the end of that of this. I'm really optimistic as I look at the future. I know it sounds crazy, but I think part of what you have to do as a leader is really be optimist and do everything you can to transfer this optimism to your people.
Terrific.
Well, that's terrific. Edwin, I want to thank you very much for joining us today on Liquid Lunch. One of these days when we get back to our studio, we got to have you in, and thank you so much. Check out Edwin.
I would love that. Thank you.
We look forward to it. Edwin Bosso, CEO of Myrtle Consulting Group, author of 6,000 Dreams, Leader's Guide to Successful Business Transformation Journey.
Thank you, guys. Brian,
thank you,
John, thank you.
Thank you, Edwin.
Thank you, Edwin.
Just to catch you up to speed, I guess the space lower orbit space launch is for this Saturday. So we'll be hope all eyes will be on Cape Canaveral once again and see if we can get back into outer space. We've been relying on Russia for the last 9 or 10 years to get our astronauts to the space station. Frank, in the final minute, any notable birthdays or anything today that you know of?
Yeah, today is actually my brother Alexander's birthday, so I'm hoping to see him this evening and celebrate with him. And today also would have been John F. Kennedy's birthday and Bob Hope, and of course that great patriot that you quoted earlier, Patrick Henry.
Wow, that's amazing. One of our viewers texted me that they thought they heard a rumor that you shared a birthday with one of your brothers.
Well, I mean, you never know. You never know. I generally I don't make a big deal about.
I know you don't. Okay, we got to take a quick break. We're going to come back right after this with the funny man himself, Professor Barry Goldsmith, NYU professor and the host of the Been There, Haven't Done That podcast. Right after this to crack you up.
Most financially successful people own assets that make them money while they sleep. They usually own real estate, vehicles, intellectual property, equipment, and more. These assets make passive income through leases, subscriptions, royalties, and fees that don't require time, energy, or attention. Your assets do the work, and you collect the check. So what kind of asset should you buy? The most valuable companies in the world, like Amazon, Google, and Apple, all have the same thing in common. They make a majority of their revenue from data technology assets, storing, collecting, processing, and providing data. It's all about the data. What if you could own data tech assets with a low upfront cost? Introducing Apex, a proprietary technology built to process and mine data and render artificial intelligence and 3D gaming at exceptionally high rates. Apex Tech has partnered with SafeTech, a subsidiary of a publicly traded company called InvestView. SafeTech's business model leverages Apex technology to disrupt the multi-trillion-dollar data tech industry, giving you the competitive advantage. SafeTech's growth strategy is to capture a significant share of the market. SafeTech will enter into a 60-month lease with owners of Apex Systems. Why would they do that? Why not just buy all the equipment themselves? The same reason most companies lease instead of own: to scale quickly without the upfront costs and for the tax benefits. So how do you get started? You purchase an Apex system. Then you can lease it to SafeTech for 60 months at a rate of $500 per month. That's a total of $30,000 paid to you over the life of the lease. So what's your responsibility besides purchasing the Apex system? Nothing. During the lease, SafeTech is responsible for any maintenance costs to keep things running for you. Just collect a check every month for the next 60 months. This tremendous financial opportunity positions you to follow the strategies of the financially successful. You can leverage data technology to produce passive income that generates revenue without your time, energy, or effort. This is what is meant by creating multiple streams of income. But the opportunity to participate will not last forever. If this concept fits your financial goals, take action today while you still have the chance.